What's up, everybody? I hope you have subscribed to Grace RN International, because if you haven't, you are missing a lot, because here we talk everything mental health, and we know that mental health applies to each and every person, because we have these people in our community, at our workplace, and at our homes. So subscribe to Grace RN International if you want to know more about mental health, and if you want to know how to deal with people living with mental health. It's not a death sentence, it's not something very unique, but subscribe. My point is subscribe so that we can learn together and spend a lot of time together learning, of course. So welcome back to my YouTube channel, because today we are going to talk about another mental health condition, that is specific learning disorder, according to our DSM-5, because that is the current diagnostic manual. So I'll be reading a lot of my pointers. I think I'll get about soon, so that we can learn very well together and get to understand everything we're talking about. So today we are going to talk about specific learning disorders. So when we talk about learning disorders, that is from my word, is a learning disorder. It affects how you comprehend things, how you read things, and how you handle your maths. So what is the diagnostic criteria? The diagnostic criteria of specific learning disorder is difficulty learning and acquiring specific skills, that is reading, writing, and arithmetics. So that is it. How is it characterized? Inaccurate and slow efforts in reading. You might leave out words when you're reading them, mispronounce them, and it is slow and effortful. You're making a lot of efforts, but you're not able to read out the words correctly. Another one, difficulty understanding the meaning of what is being read. You might be reading, maybe you're reading out properly, but you're not understanding, you're not able to comprehend what you're reading. You're just reading things, but you're not able to comprehend anything that you are reading. Difficulty spelling. So when we talk about spelling, this person might miss out words, like omit, add words, and maybe confuse between vowels and consonants. So that is when we talk about difficulty in spelling. Another one is difficulty with written expression. You are unable to put on punctuations and full stop when and where they are required. Another one, we will talk about difficulty mastering numbers. This person is not able to do their arithmetics, and they don't know numbers. They can't count the numbers in order. They'll just be putting any number anywhere. They have difficulty with the arithmetics. So, and that is when we talk about difficulty in learning and using academic skills, as indicated by these specific things that I've read out to you. So another diagnostic criteria is the affected academic skills are subsequently and quantifiably below the expected average according to their age. So we all know that when someone is in a specific grade, this is what they're supposed to be able to do. But with these people with specific learning disorder are not able to do what they're supposed to do when it comes to learning in relation to their age. They are significantly behind when you compare them with their peers. Another one, the learning difficulty begins during the school-going age and may not be fully manifested until the demand for those affected academic skills exceed the individual limited capabilities. What do we mean by this? Time test, reading and writing, and extremely difficult assignments, they might take longer to do them, or they may not be able to do them completely. When it comes to reading, especially when it's timed and they're reading one word at a time, or maybe they're even having difficulty reading, they might not be able to complete their reading on time. And even comprehension, they might be able to read the context, but they may not be able to comprehend what is they're reading. So it becomes a problem for them to do very complex assignments. So before you diagnose someone with a specific learning disorder, they have to meet this diagnostic criteria, that is unable to acquire specific academic skills. These skills are not able to, they're not manifested until the school going period. And another one we talked about was the affected academic skill is subsequently below the specific grade or the specific age and time. So before we diagnose someone they have to meet the diagnostic criteria before you diagnose them with specific learning disorder. So that basically that is the diagnostic criteria, and we know, I've already told you how they will manifest. They'll have difficulty with the arithmetic, difficulty when it comes to written text and passages, spelling, and like reading. Basically they'll be reading one word at a time, and writing, so they might be omitting, substituting vowels and consonants. So that is how they'll manifest. How do we specify them? So I want to explain this. There's something called dyslexia. Dyslexia is basically difficulty in learning. That is when it is basically when it comes to learning. So when we want to say this person has dyslexia, they'll have problem with the written expression. When it comes to reading, they'll have a problem with reading and comprehending what they have read. So that is dyslexia. So when someone has a problem only when it comes to reading, then we don't diagnose them with specific learning disorder. Rather, we diagnose them with dyslexia. And we have dyscalculia. When we talk about dyscalculia, that this is when someone has difficulty with their maths, the arithmetic, the numbers. So when someone has a problem with only their maths, their numbers, then that is dyscalculia. We don't put them under specific learning disorder, because for you to have a learning disorder, you have to have a problem with reading, writing, and your numbers. You have to meet all these criteria before you are diagnosed with specific learning disorder. But if it is only one part that is giving you problem, then that is dyslexia, dyscalculia for math, and dysgraphia for writing, when you have a problem with writing. So that is dysgraphia. So what we are going to talk about, levels of severity. We'll talk about moderate, severe, and mild, moderate, and severe. When you talk about mild, this person will have a problem with one or more of these skills. They might have a problem with reading and writing, or reading and math, but it is rarely all the three categories. But if it is the three, then it is mild. They can use minimal to no help, but they'll need help, but very minimal, compared to someone who has moderate. Moderate they'll need a lot of help both at home and at school, and they'll be able to, if they get the help that they require from their family and teachers, then they'll be able to get ahead or get to their level of education when they're in grade 1 or grade 2. When they get like extra time to study, then they'll be with their age mates. But when we talk about severe, then these people, they'll have a problem in all of these three categories. That is when it comes to reading, writing, and the arithmetic. And when they have all these problems, it is severe. So even they'll need help, like extra help, and even with this help, they might still not be able to meet the activities that they're supposed to meet according to their age. Then we have we have already talked about subtypes, that is dyslexia, dyscalculia, and dysgraphia. So and we say that dyscalculia is when a person has a problem with the arithmetic. Dysgraphia is when a person has a problem with the writing, and dyslexia when someone has a problem with reading and comprehending the text. So now we'll talk about causes and risk factors. We have three main causes and risk factors that will put you at risk of having a specific learning disorder. That is, the first one we'll talk about genetic. If your genetic, so if your family has a history of specific learning disorder or any developmental disorder, then you are prone to have specific learning disorder. Another one is brain structure and function. So different parts of the brain are region are specific for language and reasoning. Language, reasoning, and memory might be affected, putting you at risk for specific learning disorder. And then environmental factors. That is, when your parent, when your mother, when she was pregnant, was exposed to toxins rather. We talk about when they were smoking, they were working in a quarry or some mining site, where there are a lot of toxins that they might inhale or ingest. Then you are the person is probably the baby is probably prone to the specific learning disorder. Another one, when the baby is born with low birth weight. Low birth weight is below 2.5 kg. That is low birth weight. Another one, child stress that contribute to learning difficulty. So, well, let's talk about in Kenya, or rather Africa. Africa, we believe in beating people. So let's assume this, you're trying to teach your baby, your toddler, maybe numbers or how to read, but when they are unable to read properly, you hit them. You're already connecting the reading, and they will relate reading and beating. So if you beat them, when they're going to read, they will relate reading and being beaten. So it will cause them a lot of stress and they might not be able to perform. So that is also a risk factor. And then we have the interventions and strategies. When we talk about interventions and strategies, this is how we are supposed to help these people and how we are supposed to live with them so that they may live a near normal life, because we all know that mental health or psychiatric disorders are lifelong. We manage them so that we may be able, these people may be able to live a near normal life, but they rarely fade away. They're not conditions that go, they're lifelong. So interventions and strategies, that is educational intervention. When we talk about educational interventions, that is specialized education, and it has to be individualized, because we have talked about mild, moderate, and severe. So you can't use the criteria you use to handle someone with moderate specific learning disorder to help someone with severe learning disorder. The help has to be, the educational and professional help has to be specialized. Another one is assistive technology. When we talk about assistive technology, we talk about when you relate reading and writing and hearing. We talk about also hearing. That now we talk text to speech and speech to text. Like they'll have to read things out loud and say things out loud and maybe spell them, and then they'll need maybe AI. Now we have AI, so they'll have this computer helping them to correct their sentences and their statements. Now they'll skip learning slowly and step by step using the assistive technology. Behavioral and emotional support. These people are prone to low self-esteem because they're significantly behind their peers, and this will make them feel less of students or less of people, because they're significantly behind. And when you lived in an area or a community where they don't know about mental health or mental conditions, they might not know that it is a condition that needs intervention. So these people will just feel like that they're not doing enough, or they're not giving enough, so they'll have low self-esteem, and they might end up dropping out of school because they'll feel like it is not their place, because they're behind, they're always behind, and they're not getting the help that they need. So when we come to teachers and parents, we all need our teachers and parents so that we can assess their academic, give them tests, so that at the end of their test we can assess where they need more help and where we need to like put more effort and where they're doing properly, so that we know where we'll have to give them specific help and where to let them so that they can do it by themselves. We also need to figure out ways of helping these people so that they can know how to do things by themselves. Maybe a timetable or a order, or when you are in a class, you use symbols. When we talk about teachers, and at home you make their environment learning friendly. So when you go to their bedroom, or whether the library, your home library, you need to have like charts for numbers, or pictures on the wall that will lead them, so that when they have a problem with reading, they'll need alphabets and vowels on their wall, so that every room that they go to, learning is made fun and attractive, so they'll also not only have a hard time but also enjoy reading and learning, so that it may be easier for them to read and learn. So what we say about, the only thing I can say, our summary today is that specific learning disorder is lifelong, and when we have these people in our community, we need to give them the help that they require so that they can live a near normal life. And for our caregivers, our teachers, we need to check up on our students, so that, because it is a teamwork, we need to work as a teamwork, because the parents might not be able to recognize that their kid has a problem, so the teacher will help the parent know that their child has a problem when it comes to learning. They have a problem when it comes to the arithmetic, when it comes to writing, and when it comes to reading, so that they may seek professional help. Same to parents, you can tell your teachers when you're transferring your kids to a different school, you have to inform your new teachers that my child has a problem with this, my child is a bit slower, so that the teacher may not be hard on them, so that they may feel accepted in their class and with their peers, which is okay, because it is lifelong. And to make these people accepted, we need to have ways to live with them and make life very bearable for them, and learning easier for them and attractive. Because one thing about everything, and one thing about our brains, as long as you make something attractive, it becomes easier for the reader and the teacher, the learner and the teacher rather. So that is all for today. Let us meet in the next. I hope I've been of very good help. Hit the subscribe button. Ask any question you have on the comment section.